Dear God, your will, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. If I have anything worth saying, please open their ears to hear me. Open their hearts to carry it with them into the week. In your name, amen. Our story for today starts quite a bit earlier than our scripture lesson. It starts on the night before Jesus was killed. He had dinner with his disciples. We call it the Passover. It's where communion comes from. He had dinner with his friends. And he looks at them at some point in the meal. And he says, each and every one of you is going to deny me. All of you are going to abandon me. And I'm sure all of them were upset when they heard this. But there's one guy in particular who gets really mad. Peter. He says, absolutely not. He just straight up denies it. No way. I will never deny you. And Jesus says in chapter 13, verse 38, he says, truly I tell you, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And the night goes on and Jesus gets arrested and his disciples scatter. And Peter tried. He tried to stay with Jesus. He cut this guy's ear off. He drew his sword. He was ready to defend Jesus. Jesus said no, and he heals the guy's ear. And then when Jesus is being questioned by the religious authorities in the building, Peter was outside near the campfires. And 3 times different people come up to him and they say, didn't I see you with that guy, Jesus? I feel like I remember when he went into Jerusalem, which is Palm Sunday, when he came into Jerusalem, I think I saw you with him. 3 different times somebody walks up to him and 3 times he says, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know him. And then after the 3rd time, the rooster starts crowing. And Peter remembers the words of Jesus. And he weeps. And I bet that was it's kind of an embarrassing moment for Peter. He messed up. He literally denied Jesus 3 times. And so then we bring it up to our scripture lesson for today. And Jesus is sitting with Peter, and this is after the resurrection. Jesus has already died. And then 3 days later, he came back. And then he's now sitting on the shore next to Peter. And it says in verse 15, chapter 21, verse 15, he says, when they finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. And a second time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, tend to my sheep. And he said to him a 3rd time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? It says that Peter felt hurt because Jesus had said 3 times. There must have been an echo in Peter's ear. 3 times he denied Jesus, and 3 times Jesus asked him about his love. And in that moment, Jesus is forgiving Peter for what happened. Jesus is saying, do you love me? He's still inviting him in, even though Peter denied him. With these questions, Jesus is forgiving Peter. And then after that forgiveness, Jesus is pushing Peter into action. Every time Peter says, yes, I love you, Jesus says, great, take care of my people. Take care of my people. And Peter goes on to do great things. They kept calling him Simon, son of John. But he gave him the new name Peter, which means rock. He is the foundation on which the church is built. Sort of. Jesus is the foundation. But he started the foundation. Right? The Catholics consider Peter to be the first hope. He goes on to do amazing things, and ultimately he dies for his faith. But I think everything Peter did in his entire life leads back to that one moment sitting on the beach with Jesus, when Jesus forgave him for screwing up. Have you ever made a mistake and you just have no excuse? Every now and then when we make mistakes, we kind of have a reason, right? A rationale, a way that we can kind of explain it away, a way we can say, well, this is why I did it, and that's what makes it okay. But every now and then you do something, and you know it, and they know it, and there's just no getting around it. You mess up and there's this raw realization that you are in the wrong completely. And you can't even look at them. You're just like staring at your shoes or staring, at their shoulder because you can't even make eye contact with them. I think that's what this moment is like with Peter on the beach. He's embarrassed. He knows he messed up. There's no getting around it. He denied Jesus. But Jesus forgave Peter. And Jesus forgives each and every one of us. We are forgiven. We are the forgiven. And with that comes a call to do something with that. We don't do good works in order to earn our forgiveness. We don't do good things hoping to get enough check marks to get to heaven. We do good works because we are forgiven. All that shame, embarrassment, guilt, all that garbage is gone. Jesus has freed us from that. It is gone. So what will you do with that freedom? Jesus said to Peter, "Tend my sheep." Now, if we skip a little bit further ahead, we switch over to our scripture in James. We find in verse 27 it says, "Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to take care of orphans and widows in their distress, to keep oneself unstained by the world." Pure and undefiled religion looks like this, taking care of orphans and widows. And we read that today and we think, well, why just orphans and widows? Why not like all the other people who struggle in society? Well, what we have to remember is that when the Bible was written, those were the only ones struggling, well, not the only ones, but they were the lowest of society. There were no government programs and benefits for the widows. There were no orphanages or adoption programs for the orphans. Widows and orphans ended up beggars on the streets, starving to death. And so when James says, take care of orphans and widows, what he's actually saying is take care of the bottom of society. Take care of the least of these. Both Jesus and James are pushing us to take our faith and turn it into action. If you believe this stuff, do something about it. We love from the ground up. We start with love and the lowest of society, and we put those two together. We love from the ground up, and we will never know how far the ripples of our love go. There's this really cheesy commercial from McDonald's that I've been seeing on the TV a lot lately. And there's like this little sing-songy thing that goes on in the background. It's like, a little love goes a long way. And there's this shot, an airplane, and it's cartoon. Maybe you've seen this. And like the first guy puts his seat back, and it bumps into the second guy, and he gets like a little dark cloud over his head, and he bumps into the next guy behind him. And it's like this chain of grumpiness that goes all the way to the back of the plane. And then the last person, instead of getting grumpy, they take a McDonald's Happy Meal and give it to the person in front of them. Because people are like that. And then there's like this ripple effect of good deeds and niceness of people giving to the person in front of them. And you see the smiles, like it's really obvious, it's cartoons. And there's like this smile that goes to the front. And it's cheesy and it's cute. And yeah, I know, they're trying to sell burgers. But the principle is really solid. Ripples of love or ripples of hatred from who we are and what we do. And you never know how far that can reach. The only way to stop the chain of grumpiness is to respond to hatred with love. When we get hurt, we want to hurt back. That's what makes sense. I'm so mad at them. I can't believe they did that. I want to get them back. But the world hurt Jesus. And Jesus responded with only love. A lot of us don't realize this. But you have all the power in the world. You have far greater influence than you ever thought possible. The world does not happen to you. You happen to the world. With our actions, we shape the world around us for better or worse, ripples of love or ripples of hatred. A lot of us, we like to play the victim. We like to think that we are helpless and think that, oh, I have to do this because, work told me or this organization is making the rules and I have to abide by it. But you have far greater power than you ever could imagine. We like to think things are out of our control, but they're not. Now this seeps into every aspect of our life, and I have 3 quick examples for you this morning before we start. The first example is 50 Shades of Grey. Some of you know what it is. For those who don't know, 50 Shades of Grey is a trilogy of books that was recently turned into movies. And they're very controversial because the books and the movies, they're all about sex. And really graphic sex, and it's very explicit, and it makes a lot of people really uncomfortable. And so the idea of turning that book into a movie, lots of controversy, but they expected to make a ton of money off of that controversy. And so that movie came out on Valentine's Day this past year. And it did terrible. No, people didn't go to see it. Those who chose not to, and then those who went to see it hated it. The writers quit, the director quit, and the author is furious. And now the second movie is a big question mark. They don't know if they're even going to bother making it. It didn't make the money they were hoping. By our actions, we voted. And we said, this is not something we want. And now that something is struggling. The second example for today is a TV show called Duck Dynasty. Anybody familiar? Duck Dynasty is the most popular reality show in history. Season 4 premiere brought in 11.8 million viewers. It's a big deal. It's a reality TV show that follows the lives of some wealthy, rural Louisiana hicks who love duck hunting. It's goofy. I watched a few episodes. It's a lot of fun. But one of the big things about the show is that they end all the episodes with this kind of like panoramic shot. They move down the dinner table of all of them gathered, and they give thanks for everything they have, and they pray at the end of every episode. And that was like a big controversy. And so when the show started to get popular, some of the higher-ups, the executives and the producers said, we think you should stop praying on the show. We think you'll get more popular and we'll make more money if you stop praying on the show. And so the family got together and they talked about it, and they responded and said, no, prayer is important to us. This is part of who we are, and this is part of what we do. We're not going to stop praying on the show. And they threatened them a little bit. They said, well, maybe we'll cancel the show. We'll see. But people kept watching the show, and it kept growing in popularity. So the producers, they backed off. And they said, oh, all right, do what you want. And I don't think those producers had some great ethical realization about how wonderful prayer is. No, I think it's all about the money. We voted with our actions. Maybe not you if you haven't seen the show, but some people voted, and that thing is still going strong. We have all the influence. We shape our world with the choices we make. We create the world around us. Things are the way they are because of what we do. Now the final example should bring things a little bit closer to home. Our society, our country, does not know how to take a break. We do not know how to stop. We feel like we just have to keep going. And more recently, the events and things have been scheduled on Sundays. It used to be, nothing was open on Sundays, but now, you see this the most with our children. You got games and practices and even competitions, like lots of games in a row. And it's not just happening on Sunday, it's common. That's like normal. The weekends have become more busy than the weeks, and I have no idea how the young families who have multiple kids in school manage that. That sounds crazy. It's amazing. Huge props to all you parents and families out there for making it through this world. And we have allowed that to happen with our choices, by giving in and saying, yeah, no, fine, I'll do it. We have become passive. Imagine with me, what if all the parents got together and they went to the organization and said, you know what, I think my kid needs a day off. Or you know what, even if you're going to have the practices or games, maybe don't punish the kids who can't make it. Maybe don't punish the kids who choose to take a day of rest. Maybe don't punish the kids who have a religion. What if we all came together? And not just for sports and school and stuff, but in everything. You walk into a store, the advertisements, everything we see and hear in our world, they don't do that to spite you, they do it because it works. And if it stops working, they will stop doing it. So if you see something that you disagree with, speak up. If you see something that you love, support it, get excited about it. We shape our world. This is the final week in our Means of Grace series. Means of Grace is an old phrase that means different ways to grow closer to God. John Wesley coined it. He had a whole list. And so a few weeks ago we talked about Scripture, about reading the Bible and how asking questions and seeking answers can bring us closer to God. And then last week we talked about sacrifice, remember? And we talked about how we realize that our world is full of temporary things, but we are not temporary. We saw why we give things up, to focus on the eternal. And then today we saw that God's forgiveness pushes us into action. We saw that we shape the world. Things are the way they are because of us. And so I leave you with this. May you remember that you shape your world. May you accept that forgiveness that's been given to you and take action based on it. May you stand up for what you believe and change this world for the better. And may you create ripples of love in everything you do. Amen. I invite my worship team to